All right, everybody. Good night, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Whenever it is you tune in, hope all is going well with you. Uh, you guys should know me. You guys should know Trey. We're here together again. Um, Man, what a week. What a weekend of football, huh? Had a lot of close games, a lot of, easy calls, you can say. Had the biggest surprise happen in Dallas, but I don't know.
Oh,
They'll sputter
we'll
eventually.
talk about that. Oh yeah, I give it till week 4. No coincidence.
I got curious, right? Because I've always seen these games with Alvin Kamara having like multiple touchdowns, and I just wanted to see like how often that happened with us. Um, that never happened against us in the entire time he's been over there.
I only think he's had like 2 good games against us since.
He's only had one game over 100 rushing yards. He's only had one game over 100 receiving yards, and that was like back in 2018. He's only had 3 touchdowns total against us out of all the times we faced him. Alvin Kamara has only had 3 touchdowns against the Falcons.
And I think 2 of those came in 20 or 17 when he got hit.
Maybe the second game.
Wait, no, he didn't. Yeah, that Thursday night or Sunday night game. Did he score? Yeah, he scored. I know because they beat us that game. 2018.
So yeah, I see all these like different people be like, oh well, how he's unstoppable and we should be afraid of him. I'm like, guys, like he doesn't do anything against us. If anything, it's anyone else because like those are with the bad defenses that we've had, and he still like barely gets in. Now he's coming up against a good one. So yeah, I'm not afraid in the same way that like anyone else might be. And the same kind of thing here with Saquon, right? Like we've seen these home run game performances out of these guys have like 3 touchdowns in their first performance, and we've seen all these different stuff happen to any other team. But then they go to us, and it's like it becomes a very boring matchup for them. So,
oh yeah,
I like to see that. The other thing I'd like to see was I was paying attention to the Steelers-Broncos just to kind of get a glimpse of how the Steelers' offense and the defense varied against another opponent that wasn't us. That way we couldn't like dissect it as much. It was against the Broncos, which I would consider a lesser opponent than the Falcons. But did you catch any of that game? Like, do you have any thoughts on how the Steelers looked in that one?
I seen a couple highlights of the game. For the most part, it looked exactly like our game, except a lot less, a worse offense because of Bo Nix starting and everything. So you have a rookie. Yeah, that right there, how they expect to win games this year, keep teams, which is not going to happen against every team because the Chiefs, I think they didn't say put the Bengals. That's not going to happen. But yeah, for the most part, they played today, played last week, run the ball, don't throw it a ton, make Justin Fields, use his legs a little bit, and pray that defense can win you this game, and that's exactly what happened.
Absolutely. The fact that they played 2 games, have 1 touchdown, and they're undefeated says a lot about that defense, and also has to do with their opponents too. Ruva does mention this though: the coaching staff is a direct result of the success of the players. Yeah, you hear that, Sean Payton? Broncos ain't crap. But I also saw a couple things too regarding Philly. Since 2022, they have been undefeated in September. They've had a 7-0 record. Wouldn't it be fun to be the one team that they lose to?
And of all people, with Kirk Cousins, who they bullied in September the last 3 years.
I mean, Kirk mentioned it
Really
himself. Like it's been, like 3 years in a row. They're having him face Philly, like at Philly in Monday night. It's like that's the true three-peat right there. And hopefully Kirk can come out with the other way with a win. And which it's probably going to feel like a home game for him again. You know, considering one, like he has not a whole lot of fan support right now. Just kind of realized it's like something is missing on the stream, and here it is. Silence. Don't like doing that as much anymore. It's very distracting when you're just not speaking and you feel like you have to do something.
Keep the people up.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a good thing I caught it like a couple minutes into the stream and not like halfway through or whatever. This isn't going to be a super long show. Probably going to have it around 30 minutes. I already kind of said my piece about, the game and everything about week 1, week 2 with the price. So if you guys want to go ahead and check that one out, it's going to be easier to find on my channel. So if you're there watching on my channel, which is currently nobody, that's okay. I do know that there's a few of you that watch back later on. So you can just go ahead and check it out there. I might have it in the home page, depending on how you see my channel. So so with Nate Landman out, we also have AJ Brown out as well on the Philly side of things. We also checked a look at the rest of the injury report, and it also says that the other receiver, Johnny Wilson, he's also suffering a hamstring. He's listed as questionable. He didn't practice on Saturday. Most of these other guys that I will name have had a full practice on Saturday, and that would be tackle Fred Johnson, cornerback Isaiah Rodgers, who is likely going to be the starter on the outside. We have Tyler Steen, the other tackle. We have Devin White, very familiar with him, and Milton Williams, the D tackle. We might get to see a little bit of him in the rotation on the defensive line as well. So they're all kind of dealing with names. They're unspecified at the moment. And on our side, we're going to have Antonio Hamilton out again. Caleb McGarry had a full practice on Saturday. And the only other person that was listed on there outside of Nate Landman and the rest of them is Jason McClellan, who's dealing with a knee injury. So not too long of a list of names in comparison to everyone else. So that's good to know. About Rook, I think it's just a matter of like sometimes you have to have a number of inactive people. I think it says like you only have to have 45 people that can suit up, and then like the third quarterback. So 45, 46 people. Like you just have to have certain people that are not dressed, and it might not be because of an injury. It just might be because like we need 7 names unavailable. So I don't think he's really hurt. And same thing with Brandon Dorless. Like they just mentioned a shoulder injury for Rook last time, but I don't think it's anything serious. So I think it's just like, hey, we need names to go on this list. And since they're rookies, we're not like expecting to play them right away, but I would like to see them too. I would definitely like to see a little bit more ferociousness on the defensive line, but I think we got a little bit of that in the first game. So speaking of ferocity, when talking about defense, I was talking about it earlier with Trey, but Zach Vaughn from Philly, we've seen him before in New Orleans, but him going over there and him maintaining that starting spot at linebacker, he was a menace on the field. I don't know if you saw that, Trey, but like he had 15 tackles. 2 sacks. I think like an extra tackle for loss. He was all over the place. So, are you? Is that a point of concern? The linebacking core for the Eagles?
Really just him, if we being honest. Jacoby didn't really do much from what I saw.
He had a few plays in coverage. He had that drop pick 6 at the very beginning of the game, which kind of hurt them. I already knew that, but he wasn't like terrible, but he's gonna ease him. He's gonna ease his way into that large market spot a little bit more. But he does have Devin White coming back pretty soon. Speaking of coming back, Rashaan Evans was one of the names listed as far as people were working out, and that surprised me because I haven't heard his name in 2 years. Ever since he led our team in tackles in 22, and then that's what Rashaan Evans did. He just he said his piece, made his plays, and then left our team. We'll get him back shortly. Don't worry. Okay, well, so me and Ripcliffe had promised a film review afterwards, and as far as I know, that's going to have to be postponed. But what I will say about the film review is that we are we're being a little bit too harsh on Caleb McGarry, guys. It might be crazy, but we're kind of being a little bit too harsh on McGarry. And here's why I'll say that. Because when it comes down to this matchup against Philly's defensive line, I'm not super worried about their edge rush. Bryce Huff is on one side, you have Josh Sweat on the other side. Josh Sweat, as long as he's facing Jake Matthews, he's going to be taken care of. And then Bryce Huff usually lines up across on the right tackle, and I didn't really get to see a ton of him. They do have Brandon Graham still, but that's 35. How old is Brandon Graham again? Let's check this out real quick. Yeah, 36-year-old Brandon Graham. There's a reason why he's the rotational piece. He can still, be disruptive. But, yeah. I'm not super worried about the outside, about the edge rush. But what does concern me, Trey, is the interior of the defensive line with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. So when I think about the offensive line for us, my main concern isn't McGarry. If anything, my main concern is if I'm positioning this correctly in my head, right? If you have, when I kind of saw them swap too. I'm not super worried about Drew Dahlman because he's going to have Chris Lindstrom on his side. And even though I'm not afraid to say, hey, Chris Lindstrom didn't have a good of a game in week 1, but I'll give him a grace period because, he did show signs of being hurt a little bit. But the one person that has to stand out here is Matthew Bergeron. Because when I'm looking at the defensive lineup, I see Jalen Carter kind of lined up across from Matthew Bergeron, and I kind of see Jordan Davis on the other side. So if Jordan Davis is watching and taken care of, as being taken care of by Drew Dahlman and Chris Lindstrom, I'm fine with that matchup. It's not a favorable one for the rest of the game, but it's one that I have more confidence in than a one-on-one situation with Matthew Bergeron versus Jalen Carter. So that is a matchup that I'm looking forward to. That's the person that I want to have step up. And it was probably the start of a concern when I was watching the film and looking at Cam Hayward and looking how he kind of bullied Matthew Bergeron a little bit. And I didn't really get to see that on the other side. I also got to see Larry Ogunjobi be very disruptive too on the interiors and was causing a lot of pressure up the middle, which on certain plays made Kirk Cousins not able to move and step up in the pocket. So the interior of the defensive line is a bigger concern than it is on the right tackle. So, and that was the other thing too, right? Like, you have to make play calls that tire out that defensive line. We are not going to line up against them 1-for-1 and win that battle the rest of the game. I just don't see that happening here. But what I do see happening is if we have some plays with like outside zone, which we did see a lot of, but we also see some extra play action, hint, hint, with a little bit of mobility from Kirk Cousins, which we've heard him in the interviews. He says he's healthy. Like, he's tried to confirm that himself at the press conferences. Everyone was asking about him, like, hey, like, what was happening with your stance? Why were you doing this? Why weren't you doing that? And he's kind of made things clear. So it's like, all right, I'm not worried about your health if you're not worried about your health. So that being said, it makes even less sense how immobile you were. And yeah, you have to make sure that everyone is blocking, everyone's accountable for a player on these certain run plays, and especially in the passing game. Making sure that chip blocks are actually helpful for the tackles. And you could definitely get some speed in the backfield, having guys like Ray McLeod and Darnell Mooney motion out a little bit more. So we're showing that there. Any extra offensive remarks you want to make, Trey?
He pretty much named them all. Defense, well, offense version of that interior offensive line is going to have full, but I think they can do it. The one thing, though, we do have to kind of slow them down with this run game. And I wouldn't run out of Bijan outside. We kind of let Tyler Algier get a couple thuds in on him, tire him out, and hit him with a play action. They obviously have been practicing it in practice, so I'm expecting to see some more of it this week. But yeah, that play is going to have to work though, because that's going to slow this front 7 down. They blitz like that, and when they do, they send it. So, you know, in order to calm down on that, in order to be in 3rd and 9s, 3rd and 8s, and all of that, try to get some manageable third downs and scores, early games like that. That run game and that in the hand, and I mean, like I said, play action killed this same. I wouldn't say same, but killed this Eagles team last year with Kirk Cousins defense. So, you know, it didn't matter how many points they put up. They did start last year. I think we're down 17 in the first half or something like that, and then came back and made it a game. So as long as that doesn't happen, as long as you don't have to literally get into it, okay, we can't do anything else. Should be able to this game and stay in this game. But yeah, I like our odds. If we're able to a little bit more play action.
And also, like, causes certain players on the defense to hesitate a little bit more. So getting rid of your extra tells after the week 1 performance, making sure that everything's timed up, playing sound pre-snap football without like having to deal with the false starts, and then obviously like post-snap as well, like dealing with the holdings and those other like miscues, like that. All right, you had one game. I don't want to be seeing those drive-killing penalties happen after that, because once those happen, we just didn't get anything done after that. We try to get some positive plays with Kyle Pitts here and there, on a drag route and, trying to dump off to Bijan to get some extra yards. And that was working for a little bit, but every single time that happened, got called back for something else. So I'd rather not have to deal with that and beat ourselves before the Eagles get a chance to beat us. So, but with that being said, looking at their offense, the one person on the Eagles offensive line that I really wanted to shout out was Mekhi Becton, who was initially a tackle from the Jets, but then got sent over to Philly, and they moved him over to right guard, and he's made a name for himself, I'd say, as far as that interior offensive lineman. I saw a couple of other plays against Green Bay, and he just mauls certain people. So I think him having that free range to just attack and instead of having, edge rushers come to him, I think that's a really nice fit for him. So they've made him comfortable there. Josh, I gotta get Tyler going. It's time to unleash the bulldozer. We can open up some things. I absolutely agree. Three carries out of Tyler Algier is just not good enough. What I do want to see, just kind of jumping back to offense real quick, I think it's going to be very key if we allow Bijan to line up more as a receiver this game. Got any thoughts on that?
I thought we were gonna do that against the Steelers because their other than Patrick Queen, their linebackers aren't the fastest guys. I was kind of upset that Kyle Pitts lined up a lot more outside than he did in the slot. I was hoping, we let Drake London kind of man that outside. Darnell Mooney kind of did a switch between both, so it didn't really, matter. But I was hoping him and KP would be more in the slot. We did a lot of misdirection. Well, not a lot of misdirection, but we did shift Bijan around a lot in the past game. He was involved a lot in that game, but I like for him to kind of let him use his receiving skills. Let him go be the guy we saw at Texas, where he was going for post routes in the slot, hitting out and ups in the slot, something like that. Because if we're being honest, no one's guarding Bijan one-on-one when he has a free release. Let's be honest. So, I hope to see that tomorrow. The Eagles linebackers are pretty good in run support, but in pass coverage they aren't the greatest, other than Devin White, and I don't think Devin White even touched the field last week. So, I would see can you find with Bijan in the slot against Nakobe Dean or Zach Bond, preferably Zach Bond. I would love a zig route on Zach Bond in man coverage, but can you? That was one-on-one thing. Can you get a one-on-one with Kyle and the Toledo corner in the slot and just let him go use his 6'6" frame and the things on? Because we've seen it in training camp. They did it a lot in training camp. They used his speed. They put London. They put Kyle Pitts in the slot. They put Drake London in the slot. They put Tyler Algier in the slot, out of all people. So obviously he has a lot of stuff in that playbook. I just need Zachary to use it,
Yeah, it's going to be very key there. Pivoting back on defense, though, we were looking at the rest of the offensive line. We know what we see with Lane Johnson. Just touched on Mekhi Becton. Left side, Jordan Mailata, that's kind of cleared up. But Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson, those are going to be the matchups that I want to see get disrupted. I want to see Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata, maybe even Matthew Judon up in there. I want to see them wreak havoc up there because I think that's going to be our quickest path to the quarterback. But that being said, I also pointed out, if you guys took a look at my poll on my channel, I put up a post saying, hey, who needs to step up in your guys' opinion? And I gave some names, and one of the names was Arnold Levicketti. So my answer to who needs to step up, like I said, is Matthew Bergeron. But the other people that I asked on there was Kyle Pitts, Ebiketie, and then AJ Terrell. Because we have Devontae Smith, we're not having to worry about AJ Brown. But Devontae Smith is still, he's a different beast in its own entirety. You know that well, better than pretty much anyone else, since you're the Alabama fan here.
I pray to God we are to put Caden as Devontae Smith. I'm gonna hope. I think that's in the past. I think that's the 2019 stuff with Dan Quinn and all of that. And yeah. Oh yeah, Troy Anderson.
Yeah,
too. Troy Anderson gonna have to guard Saquon Barkley.
It's either him or Dallas Goedert too, who can also kind of mess some things up for us. Yeah, Arnold's. I would see like he's got some weakness when it comes to setting the edge. He's got to do a better job of doing that. Which, if that's the case, then you take him out. Lorenzo Carter's a little bit better than that. Zach Harrison is also doing well in that. We also do have Rook coming up. I don't know when we'll see him. He can also do that too. So we have some people in place. So James Smith-Williams is another name. If he's not good enough there, then we can always send someone else. It's the whole reason as to why we drafted like 4 defensive linemen here. But that is about it as far as like making sure that everyone's secure, because if Saquon bounces it out to the outside, then we're kind of screwed there. But that being said, I don't see a ton of runs that break off for more than 15. Do you guys realize that in that Steelers game, we only gave up 3 plays of 15 plus yards? Like, we already know which plays those ones are, but the fact that there was that little lets you know how good everyone else has played up to this point, and how quickly guys like Justin Simmons and Matthew Judon can get adjusted into this defense. So I think those things are going to be cleaned up. If we have any other coverage issues, if we have anything else that was like misalignments, then those things will also get taken care of as well. So I do like to see a little bit more cohesiveness as a defensive unit. I also didn't really get to see a lot of I also got to see a lot of blown coverages. So there wasn't really anything that is a problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah. Any other thoughts or any other predictions possibly? Either from you guys in the chat listening in, or
the only thing I really got, I mean, it ain't much. We're just show up. That defense is gonna have to show up and continue doing what it's doing, and offense is gonna have to get back to what we thought could happen. O-line is gonna have to show up again, because this constant face over the next 9 weeks is not gonna get any easier. I mean, there's no TJ Watt. There's still Vita Vegas, still Jalen Carter's, still Jones, still Cam Jordan. I mean, it don't get no easier. The weakest D-line we may have is the Seahawks, and they still have Boye Mafe. So, I mean, well, no, let me take that back. It'd be the Panthers, as they did this with Derrick Brown. Yeah, other than that, I mean, every D-line we play is strong. So, you can continue to run the ball well. Score predictions. What did I say for the Steelers? I said 7-17. I was completely wrong on that. Completely wrong. Play the Eagles on Monday night. Well, every time we play a Monday night game, it's either high scoring we lose or low scoring we win. So I'm gonna say, what did we beat them by last time? 24 to back in 2020 or 2019.
Yeah, that one with
Julio.
the Julio broken off that screen on the fourth down.
Yeah.
I think it was like 24-20 or something like that.
Yeah, 24-20. That's what it was. Yeah. So this game, we're in Philly. I'm gonna. I feel like what now is gonna kind of, because I've noticed that when AJ Brown is out, Jalen Hurts does not perform well, and I don't know why, because he still has a whole lot of weapons, and now you're adding Saquon to it, so maybe it'll be a little bit different. But I think the last games, AJ Brown, I think they lost 3 of those games. I know they lost the Bucks game, they lost the Cowboys game we didn't play in last year. I think there's 2 other games I think they won and lost one. So does not play well since AJ Brown is out. I have no idea. You have a Heisman Award receiver. You have Saquon. So, I mean, hopefully he continues to perform terribly and we get a win and look on to the Kansas City Chiefs. Barely squeaked by and a very disconnected Bengals game looks like right now.
Yeah, I think for me, if we were to win, it would probably be a score similar to like a 24-16, something like that. I'm still waiting on the defensive touchdown. And again, I think like as long as Jalen Hurts is going to be throwing the ball every now and then, like he's going to throw you like 2. All you have to do is just come down with him. And like we have to take advantage. We have people to catch those interceptions now. So that's going to be good. But if we were also to lose, like looking on the other side, I also think we'll keep it close and be like a 2017 kind of like last minute antic situation going on where, you know, like we had a chance to win, just didn't come down with it. Like I also kind of see that happening too. If I had to pin down for a win or for a loss, which I'm not ever wanting to do. Nah. If anything, that just gave me more confidence in facing Dallas. Like, because Dallas was also facing a Cleveland team that just kind of self-destructed. So it was kind of hard to get a gauge on both of those teams. And yeah, I'm not all that worried about it. Because like we just said at the beginning of the show, like, yeah, Alvin Kamara, like he does good against other teams. He just doesn't do good against us. So it's like we know him very well. We know the other guys very well. Like Taysom Hill is very familiar with Jesse Bates, for example. Derek Carr is very familiar with Jesse Bates, for example. So I get what happened the last time we had to go over there and stuff, but that's just not the same kind of team that we have. So it's good to know that at least they'll face us at their best, right? That should be the standard. So, but yeah, I think like the final remarks here. Defense is going to keep us in the game. I don't know if it's going to necessarily win it. We do have to make our point. We do have to make our offense let it be known to the rest of the league because eyeballs are on us. The first time it happened since 22, and that was a very disappointing showing against the Panthers on Thursday night. So time to, wipe that out of our mouth, get the taste out of the quote unquote like Kirk Cousins does bad on Monday night kind of mantra that people like to promote. It's just like it's team effort, man. Like sometimes the team just didn't do good. So we're thinking that they should, but Just don't know yet. They don't have a lot of receivers behind them. As we saw with Cincy and Kansas City, like they had 2 touchdowns from Andre. I can't even pronounce the guy's name. Number 80 for Cincinnati.
So I follow. I don't know. I play with him on Madden.
But yeah, I think that's going to be doing it for us tonight. Just a quick little show, and I'm going to be watching this game with some friends over at their house. So that'll be fun. So yeah, you guys won't hear from me for a little bit, and then hopefully we can add on to the other film review. I think the matchup that I'm looking for the next like film session that I want to have is probably taking a look at our linebackers and just see how they are. Probably like a whole session of like out linebackers and edge rushers. Just kind of check up on them real quick. So if you guys want to see that, do let me know, and I will try to add it on top of the Caleb McGarry and Jake Matthews review just to see like how we are in those categories and just kind of keep looking to improve the team. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's a very impromptu show, but it's good to know that I have a view count on all 3 platforms that I'm on. So it's my channel, it's the AFN channel, which most of you guys are watching. It's also got the same person on Twitch. I hope it's a person. Time will only tell. So, all right then. Thank you guys. That'll be it. And let's go get this victory, guys.